All right, Brandy, this is a huge moment right now. This is like
pretty cool.
a really cool thing. As somebody who grew up, I heard more from this individual on the school bus growing up than I did anybody in my actual life, which, how does it feel, Johnny Brennan of the Jerky Boys, to know that you had more of a presence than authority figures in my life growing up did?
It's actually pretty amazing. When you think about it, after all these years, it's bigger now than it ever was.
Yeah,
and it's always been popular, never faded, never went away, and it always like a train. It just kept moving and getting stronger and stronger. But now with YouTube and the internet, it's gone berserk. It's amazing.
If you're unfamiliar with the Jerky Boys, they basically revolutionized the whole concept. Where it was a bunch of characters that you did that kind of, I don't even want to reduce it to prank phone call, because we were just talking off air about how when you hear prank phone call, you think of like, hey, I'm going to make a victim out of this person I'm calling.
Right.
But you were explaining it was more of a vehicle for what you wanted to do, right?
Exactly. When I started doing this many, many moons ago, it was more about me creating these scenarios. I was recording stuff on reel-to-reel back in the early and mid-'70s.
Wow.
Using characters and character voices. As, for example, when I do Saul Rosenberg, I mean, I could literally say that goes back to when I was 5 years old imitating my mother. and way back in the day, we had tapes, and I was always doing the voices on tapes.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until in the late 70s stuff I started experimenting with the phone, but only as a gag to get these characters interacting so people could hear them. And when I say people, I meant I was doing it for family and friends on the weekend.
Wow.
So I'd go up to the house on the weekend. All my brothers, we have I got a bunch of brothers. So we'd all get together and, friends and whatnot. And we'd play these things that I did during the week. A couple of rainy days, I was off from work. I was in construction. So, I would do these things, lay things down. And then when we get together, it was just, people would just laugh hysterical. But I didn't think anything of it. I just thought I was doing these characters. They've heard me do the characters for years.
Right.
When I was a little kid, I remember doing the gay character, literally 5, 6 years old. And I remember my mom smacking the Jesus out of me. She's like, what the hell's the matter with you? What are you doing? And so it goes that far back, and it was always with me character based. It had nothing to do. Even the prank phone call bit was just a way for me to get my characters so you could hear them more.
Yeah.
Instead of me just speaking to a reel-to-reel. So you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, it makes sense because, you don't really have, obviously now it's very different because technology and everything has given everybody has decided that they're a star so they can perform in any way that they want to. But yeah, I guess there weren't a whole lot of options. It's not like, you can go out and do an open mic when you're 5 years old. And there also wasn't like, hey, let's just turn on the webcam and start doing YouTube videos and show the world how funny and cute we are. You really kind of were industrious and found a way to make something work out of nothing, really.
Right. When you think about it, there was like, this is way before the internet. So, it was actually, the New York Times said it was the largest bootleg in history. And with that being said, it still sold millions and millions of records.
Yeah, now when you're 5 years old, you're not imagining one day these things are going to go double platinum and be literally nominated for Grammy Awards.
Right, that's right, that's right.
Which is unbelievable.
That's right. I remember Adam Sandler, he came up to me at the Grammy party. And he put his finger in my chest and he said, "Johnny, that Grammy was yours."
Wow.
And he was running against me.
Wow.
So it was Jerky Boys 2. The record sold millions. It sold 1 million records in 1 week. And it was the first spoken word or comedy album to ever hit #1 in Billboard magazine. And I think that still stands. So
that's crazy.
Those are pretty amazing stats. And they gave the Grammy to Sam Kinison, who was deceased at the time.
Right.
So, and that's when Adam Sandler comes up to me and said, "Dude, that was your Grammy right there." Because I had sold millions of records.
Yeah.
And the Jerky Boys was on fire. And that's why, again, still now with this YouTube, it's crazy. It's insane. But it's amazing how each record stepped up,
Yeah, and are you finding that people is it younger people that are finding these things on YouTube that had never heard it before and it's like brand new material to them and very novel? Or who's coming up to you and meeting people, which, by the way, we should say, you are going to be out doing an event where we just started rolling into it.
Talking to him. Yeah.
Talk about fun. The event that you're going to be a part of coming up.
It's the Hudson Valley Comic-Con. Mm-hmm. I figured this is a no-brainer. It's right in my backyard. I don't need hotels, things like that. So, and it's a great way to say hello to the fans. Fans come out, and if they know you're here, they get a chance to come out and say hello. Because you got fans over many, many years that would love to meet you. Sure. I got people pretty much all over the globe: Australia, England, Ireland. Hey, Johnny, when are you going to come? Are you planning any trips out this way? We can, this is here is in my backyard, so it's absolutely a no-brainer. It's at the exhibition center, in Poughkeepsie, and it's on the 7th and 8th of May.
Okay. Now, are people who come up to these events, or come up to you at these events, what kind of audience is coming out? Are you noticing a lot more young people? Are you noticing people that have kind of been with you for a long time?
Yes, the beautiful thing is the Jerky Boys demographic has always been I always say this to people, from 5 to 95.
Right.
Little kids who get a hold of it, they think it's the greatest thing because they're getting to hear Frank Rizzo drop a few F-bombs and choke somebody, or they're getting to hear Sal with all of his his phobias and all the crap he's got going on. And the Jerky Boys, it's always got something for everyone. Mm-hmm. Like big old badass Bob the cattle rustler. Over all these years, there's so many people that have been made happy by these characters. So, like I was saying to you, I had at one of the shows I did, I had 2 11-year-old girls come up to the table, and I'm thinking they're going to be all crazy over Family Guy stuff, and they wanted nothing to do with it. They wanted Jerky Boys stuff.
That's so crazy.
And so it's so cool because their parents are telling them and actually turning them on to something that they loved growing up.
That's so cool.
And let's face it, in the world today, let's face it. How bad is the Jerky Boys compared to what you're looking at, what's out there today? I mean,
That's true. It's a
really
fair point.
It's really only Frank Rizzo and Jack Torse, that are a little heavy with the F-bombs.
Right.
Everything else is pretty much, it's never gratuitous.
Right.
Never. I mean, Frank Rizzo does. It's only part of his language.
It's what he does. That's
exactly.
who he is.
That's who he is.
Yeah,
Exactly.
for sure.
Is there one character that you just always go back to because it's your favorite, or do they equally just emanate from you?
It's so funny. That's a great question. I love doing Jack Torse, the gay character. That's one of my favorites. And I love doing big old badass Bob the cattle rustler.
Okay.
Rosine, the Puerto Rican transvestite, I love doing. It's funny, Frank Rizzo. It's I don't even think about because all I have to do is put a little anger in my voice, and like I have no patience for anybody. I'm looking to choke somebody, and I just think of my dad. When I do Frank Rizzo, I'm doing my father when he was pissed off.
Wow.
When I do Sal Rosenberg, I'm actually doing my mother. Literally. So those characters, all the characters are based on someone I've known growing up. They're all based on a real person. Every one of them. So I think that's also part of the success.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to do things. Everybody always says that about whether it's you're being a stand-up or whatever you're doing, that like the best way to do it and the most effective way to do it is if it's who you are amplified or something you know very well amplified.
Which is what I did. And it gets back to what you were saying. I don't really I do have favorites that I do enjoy doing a little more than, because you get to be crazy with them, like Jack Torse. I get to be flamboyant. I get to do something that's not. It's just off the cuff, a lot more so, because it's so natural for me to do Frank.
Yeah.
It's a little bit work to do Jack, or it's work to do big old badass Bob the cattle rustler. You got to, you're always thinking on your feet,
right?
Or look at even Mort Goldman or Sal Rosenberg. Mort Goldman in Family Guy is based on my character Sal Rosenberg.
Right, makes sense.
So we say, Mort Goldman is Sal Rosenberg's long lost cousin. So and when I do Sal Rosenberg in the Jerky Boys, it's more like he's like more toned down. He's like, so should I bring my shoes and my glasses so I have them? And when I do Mort on Family Guy, it's more like, hello, Lois, yes. Oh, God, I got to crawl up into a little ass ball. It's much more like speedy, and but everybody knows, they're like, that's Johnny Brennan.
Yep.
So they recognize the voice.
That's so interesting. Now, has anybody, I have to ask, you've made a career out of calling people and doing these characters and unwittingly bringing people into your world. Has anyone gotten extremely angry at you? Like, has anybody come along wanting to kick your ass over you calling them as one of your characters?
It's the funniest ride I've been on. It's like, I'm sure there have been.
Yep.
And I'm sure back in the day, if they could, there probably a few people would like to, choke the hell out of me. But the fact is, it's been a wonderful journey, and it's never, because I don't think it was ever looked at. And if you really look at the history of what I've done, nothing was ever mean-spirited.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I was never, even when Frank is telling somebody he's going to, choke the shit out of a few people. Mm-hmm. Let's talk selling cars, Paul. Bring in a tank, I'll sell the fucking thing. And he said, well, Jesus, I don't run that kind of operation here, the guy's trying to tell me. All right, maybe I'll tone it down a bit. I'll just choke a few people here and there. Maybe, So when everybody hears Frank, they're saying, that for the first time, like, holy Jesus Christ, this guy's
you don't want to get that guy mad,
right? Yeah. But then they say, but yet he's so funny. Yeah. So I always have been able to get to the edge and have people really wanting to, they're burning up, and then I kind of just bring them back a little bit.
Okay.
And I mean, really, how could you really, and that's why the humor of the Jerky Boys has always been incredible, because it was never malicious, or you could always see through the Jerky Boys was never meant to hurt or to be, to do anything like that.
It goes back to what you were saying, is you were just kind of you needed this as the platform for the character you were doing. It wasn't, the humor of it wasn't, hey, I'm going to hurt this person's feelings or make this person look stupid. Yeah.
Exactly. Never called like emergence. For example, Sal's firecracker mishap when he blows his hand off with the firecracker.
Yeah.
And I say, I say to the lady, she's like, I said, oh yeah, oh it was big, oh God, and I blew my hand off, and I don't even see any fingers. And this lady's like, okay, well you need to get a towel and your button. She's trying to help me out,
yeah.
And I'm just like, going, and it's crazy where it just goes.
Yep.
And
yep.
But again, it's always self-deprecating humor.
Mm-hmm.
It's always Sal blew his hand off,
right?
And he's telling this lady, "Oh, these damn firecrackers!" And he's trying to explain that he doesn't see fingers, but maybe I don't see any fingers because I'm all numb and stingy,
right?
And that bit today is a classic.
Yep.
But to get back to what you were saying, I called these places. It's not an emergency room. It's not a 911.
So you're not taking away a service from somebody else.
Exactly.
Right.
They popped up all over the place like 20, 25, 30 years ago. They're like centers where you can go in. Like if you don't feel good or you feel sick.
Right.
I forget what they're called.
Urgent care centers.
Yeah, that's it. Care centers.
Yep. So
that's what I called when I did that call. I would never call 911, never police. Like I said, it was more about the story that I wanted to create, and that's how it ran to the fences, man.
Man, I'm going to tie this into a WRRV artist here. This is an interesting thing that I found out today. Radiohead, their first album, Pablo Honey.
Yeah,
you named that album basically.
It was a very, very cool story. I had just released Jerky Boys 1. Mm-hmm. And I get a phone call at my mom's house. I think it was 92, maybe 91, maybe 93. I don't know. It was early 90s. And it was Radiohead with their management. And they put the call through to me. And I'll never forget taking the phone call and stepping out onto my mom's front porch so I could hear. And I'm like, and they're like, Johnny, we just want to ask your permission. There's a band from England, and they want to know if they can use Pablo Honey to name their debut album. And your skit Pablo Honey. And I said, absolutely. And at the time, nobody even knew, Radiohead. No, I don't.
Sure, yeah, they were completely unknown.
But I said, absolutely, man, knock yourself out. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
And then the funny part of the story is I came out with Jerky Boys 2.
Yeah.
Because they said, how are you going to top Jerky Boys 1? It can't be done. Jerky Boys 2 not only topped 1, it just slapped it out of the water.
Yep.
And who chases me up the charts? Jerky Boys 2 hits #1 in Billboard magazine, and #2 in Billboard magazine was Radiohead with Pablo Honey. So how cool is that? And I actually have a plaque. Billboard magazine sent me a beautiful plaque. And there on the plaque, you see #1 Jerky Boys and #2 Radiohead with Pablo Honey.
That's crazy.
Isn't that a cool story?
That's awesome. How do you top that?
It's great, man. And now look at they're just genius.
Well, they're one of those bands where it's like you think like, oh, smart people listen to them. They're from Oxford and they're on another level. It's like they took their first album title from you. How cool is that?
Pablo Honey.
Out of a comedy sketch.
But that just goes to show you how the reach of the Jerky Boys, and it's not just Radiohead. There's bands like Sublime, all these major bands that ever were. They're diehard Jerky Boys fans. I mean, you could take everybody from Motley Crue to Van Halen. I mean, you name it, and they're huge Jerky Boys fans.
That's awesome.
And this goes over decades now.
Yeah,
I'll never forget when I was when I was nominated for a Grammy. I'm walking around, and everyone's coming up to me for pictures and autographs, and I'm talking about famous people, big bands, and and I'm standing there going, "This is surreal."
Wow.
They're like, "Holy shit! Look, it's Johnny the Jerky Boys." Oh my God! And pictures and it was overwhelming.
That's awesome
to see these bands that are just totally like, because Sheryl Crow, good example. I when I met her, she's like, Johnny, this is the greatest. This is so awesome. She goes, you know what? I said, what? She goes, you're my bus music, bro.
No.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
wow.
I said, that is the coolest term. She says, yeah, your stuff is my bus music.
That's
and
so funny.
It goes, Mariah Carey, one of the most incredible. Mariah Carey knew my stuff better than anyone I have ever seen. She's like a eccentric, like a perfectionist. She knew the parts of the victims on the phone calls. She knew everything. So so when you think about Mariah Carey, anybody, NASCAR, all of NASCAR, the WWE, World Wrestling. Yeah. I mean, it goes into Hollywood, all Hollywood.
Jeez.
So it's an amazing thing that's been able to work its way, and I think it has, because it's just timeless humor.
Right, absolutely.
And it's just,
it transcends all of that
right,
stuff,
and
for sure.
again, all demographic. You know,
that is unbelievable. Well, if you want an opportunity to meet him and live out your dream of being like Mariah Carey, reciting all of his own material to him, one more time, the details about the event that you're going to be at.
It's the Hudson Valley Comic-Con. It's May 7th and 8th. I'll be there both days. And it's going to be really cool. This is their first time.
Yep.
So I think that from what I understand, they're doing real well.
Awesome.
And so it should be fun. I basically do it to say hello to the fans, take some pictures, sign some autographs, have some fun, and that's it.
Awesome.
You know?
Well, I could talk to you all day. These stories have been unbelievable. But
I appreciate it.
Appreciate
the stories
time,
like this doesn't even scratch the surface, man. I got stories you wouldn't even believe.
We will have you back. We need to hear more of these. Thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Love the show, by the way.
Thank you.
Thank you.